But if I may come in here, you're using the example of a cell phone. I mean, I don't have to go to the cell communication providers to buy the phone. I go and buy my phone and come and buy their SIM so that I can communicate. So why won't you let me, because you're having a problem giving me the phone, so why won't you let me go and buy my device and bring it to you to do the installation for me? Well, how would that cause any problem?
Well, you see, that is where the regulatory, thank you, that's where the regulatory rules actually comes in here. You have a situation where you allow someone to just go and buy such item and come and then you install it. There are so many issues that can actually arise. It might be a substandard and so on and so forth. And if something happens, who is going to take the blame? That's why it is being regulated that, look, we have, or the DISCO that have certain standard that they need to actually, of meter that they need to install for the customer. And that's why they need to actually supply those things. You have the NEMSA actually coming, where they have to go and inspect those things before it is actually installed to make sure nothing happens. It could be accident, could be so on and so forth.
But Dr. Arigo, what if the DISCOs say they are willing to let people go and buy so that they can do the installation? I mean, let the individuals buy their meters, the DISCOs will do the installation, because all they want is to be able to get back their money. So why won't you let the DISCOs handle this bit? The consumer buys the meter, brings it to the DISCO to check and go and install. Why is the NERC so concerned about this matter? How do you protect the consumer?
Well, like I told you before, this thing, if it happens like that, it's going to come back to hurt everyone. I just told you before, like I said, when you allow them to go and buy those things, there are chances that they can buy substandard meters. And a situation like that you might have is prone to maybe accident and so on and so forth. That's the reason. So that's why you have a rule in place that they shouldn't do that.
Okay. Let me bring in the Ibadan DISCO man in terms of...
But the DISCO is still going to examine that meter before they install it, because they're the ones going to install it. And if it's substandard, they just won't install it. Or the NERC could designate metering companies that the meters should be purchased from.
Yes, you are right. That is already in place. There are some designated meter companies in place that supplies those meters to the DISCOs.
So why can't the consumer go to those designated meter companies to purchase their meter?
Well, I've just said it before, that the chances of situation like that is prone to probably, when you allow such a thing to happen, the chances is that those things might be faulty and so on and so forth, and that can cause accidents, you name it. Or they might come back and say this meter is actually running too fast. All those things in place. So you have to look at it. That's where the regulatory commission is in place to actually make sure such a thing doesn't happen.
Okay. Dr. Mr. Ayodele, you run this thing, you're a DISCO. So, yes. But see some questions here. Julius says, a lot of us have paid for meters, yet IBEDC did not give us meters under the Captain scheme. So I noticed that you were reacting when you were saying the individuals cannot go and buy. Apparently you have a backlog that you're not able to meet up with.
No, not necessarily.
If the individual goes to buy, would that make any difference? Now, what he's saying about substandard products, how would that not come up?
Well, I think the main thing that we should address, the interface between the consumer and the supply company is the meter. And the interface between GSM and your providers and yourself is the SIM card. The SIM card is proprietary to the owner. So you won't take a SIM card of Airtel and take it to MTN to activate for you. They won't do it, because the coding and others are synchronized with the thing to identify first within their network to identify it and for you to be identified. So meter is a similar thing. It's the only identity between us and the consumer.
Okay.
That regulates how much, that tells us
consumption.
This is what you are doing. So NARC also has a subsidiary legislation called the Metering Code. Metering Code defines what and how metering will be done. So we work under the Metering Code, and the Metering Code was jointly approved by both the consumer, the
which consumer? The one that has paid and has not seen
No, when I say consumer, there's consumer consultative. Now to come back to the issue of CAPME and others.
No, you've not answered that part of can the individual go and
no, you cannot pay. You
what's
cannot.
wrong with the individual going to buy his own meter?
In fact, I can tell you what is going to happen. Meter theft will just be the beginning of the whole story, where you can steal a meter from somewhere and you take it to somebody and say, just like GSM is being stolen by anybody, you can steal anybody's GSM and you can go and use it elsewhere. So if you allow meter to be in that range, first, meter theft will be the order of the day.
So how is it that you've not been able to meet up with those that have already requested for meters?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Before privatization, we had and inherited those who had paid to PACN of over 357,000. Paid to PACN. That money was not rolled over to us.
At about 50,000 naira.
Yes, but we accepted that if they have paid, we can't go to a consumer and say, come and pay again. So we are rolling out those ones. Now, when the forex market became a downfall, most of the CAPME metering scheme that consumers had paid, we had 45 days to give. Suddenly, the price of the forex market tumbled 3 times, from 197 naira when the meter prices were fixed to over 300 naira per meter. This is just official. A lot of people will not even get it. They were getting at 487 and 500.
So the price of the meter.
So the price of the meter had jumped, but we cannot go back to those who have paid to say, come and add more money. So we are managing it, and of course, in addition to that, we in Ibadan had fixed our mind that if you are not a meter manufacturer in Nigeria, with effect from January 2017, we will not deal with anybody who is not manufacturing in Nigeria. Okay, because we need to encourage.
Okay, so let's still stay. Let me just ask this question before we go. The part of you in Ibadan forcing or seemingly forcing your consumers to use one-phase meters, is that true?
No, we don't.
Because Mini is saying here that they're being forced to use one-phase meters.
No, we don't. We don't. Your load, because there's a Form 74 that you fill. If your load is greater than 30 kVA, we cannot allow you on single phase because you overload the transformer by just pulling on one phase. The transformer is sensitive to phase not balancing. So we try to say, no, if your load is greater than this amount, you must go on 3-phase.
Okay, Mr. Shaibu, a certain disco is asking for 1 month to maintain its infrastructure. I mean, what is your reaction to that?
Thank you very much. Well, maintenance of infrastructure varies. So we have to know specifics as to what kind of maintenance they are talking about. Is it the lines? Is it the transformers? Or are we talking about rehabilitating maybe feeder pillars? So it is critical that issues of maintenance are specific to some electrical items, because this is an engineering sector, and to the extent that you have, if a line snaps, for instance, it doesn't take so long for you to restring the line. But if you have a major issue of probably transformer, blowing, or maybe a power transformer, it might take longer. So it's that issue of the DISCO. Of course, we've not been given there. If they are seeking for derogation, because in such circumstance you seek for derogation from the Commission, we would of course address the issue and of course ensure that we don't put the consumers in peril.
Now, where this is all going is that, from what you have said now, this DISCO has had to ask the go-ahead from the NERC, and the NERC has given it because it is now currently being implemented to a point now where an area that used to have power for 2 hours a day has like 1 hour every 48 hours. So is NEC protecting the consumer in any way? The consumer doesn't seem to matter. A DISCO can give you power 15 minutes for 3 days, and NEC doesn't seem to care.
Well, thank you very much. NEC is really a very responsive regulator, and of course the DISCOs themselves know, and Engineer Ayodele there can attest to that. We have 4 regulations specifically targeted at protecting the customer, and sometimes when some of these allegations come, they need to be looked at from a specific perspective as to what actually we're talking about. They might have an issue of local load shedding, and if we as part of the regulations we've given to the DISCOs, we requested that they give us their time schedules for even load shedding their customers, given the paucity of supply we have here now.
Very much. Engineer John Ayodele, Mr. Muhyiddin Ibrahim, Dr. Moses Arigu, and Shitu Shuaibu, thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us about this electricity matter. We hope that we can have it sorted out real quick. Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please do not go away.